Getting what you want in life isn't about hustle. It isn't about hard work. It isn't about being the best. In fact, half of the process of getting what you want doesn't even involve work. It's spiritual. Let me illustrate for you. I once was asked to speak at a conference in Alaska. The conference lasted a few days, and I was assigned to speak several times throughout the week. It had been a while since I last spoke on this particular topic, so I had the best intentions to prepare for my sessions weeks in advance. But it turned out that my weeks preceding the conference got uncharacteristically full of commitments, and I failed to set aside the time that I needed to prepare. Maybe this has happened to you. You kept putting off something important until suddenly the deadline was right on top of you. I know, it's frustrating and you're looking around for someone else to blame, but the blame just keeps coming back to you. So here I was a day or so before Alaska thinking I'll cram and I'll get it done. Then something I hadn't planned for happens. I wake up that day with a headache and a sore throat, and as the day progressed, it only got worse. I couldn't focus. I couldn't think. Eventually, all I could do was just crash back into bed. My last moments to prepare, and I couldn't pull it together. I didn't even have enough energy to worry about what was going to happen at the conference. But somehow, I managed to get myself to the airport. I brought my Bible and my notebook with me on the plane, but I just slept for the entirety of both flights. I arrived in Alaska with nothing but a couple of ideas that loosely fit with the theme of the conference. Now, I had done some pretty fancy procrastinations back in college, but I can confidently say that none of that compared to this situation. Can you imagine the emotions that were flooding through my system? I mean, how would you feel? I was nervous I was going to draw a blank on the platform. I wondered if people were going to be able to see my lack of preparation. I dreaded not being able to serve the audience at the level that I would want to. And I didn't want to let the team down. I wasn't even sure my body was strong enough to stand up and speak for long periods of time. Not to mention the self-accusations for not preparing earlier and for not being my normal, almost cheerful self. As I fell asleep in the lodge that night before the conference began, my body still aching with fever, I wondered what I was going to do. When suddenly I felt a calming presence, and I remembered this verse. My grace is sufficient for you, for my power is perfected in weakness. Now, I had never felt more weak, but in my weakness, there was an opportunity for God to show up strong. Then I felt God speak something to me. He said, we're going to do this one day at a time. I can't describe for you how much relief that I felt. Like that God wasn't disappointed in me. God wasn't judging me for my lack of preparation. In fact, these next few days weren't about me and my preparation at all. They were about God touching the lives of people that He loves and who He gathered for that conference. The next morning, my body woke up early. I knew I didn't have time to put together a full message. I hoped maybe through prayer I could wrestle out a few talking points to get me through the morning session. But what happened next caught me completely off guard. Have you ever been in a physical state where your body was completely exhausted, your mind was mush, but your imagination was operating at full capacity? You can hardly think straight, you don't have much energy, but you can still see. Your spirit is as strong as ever. Well, that was the case that morning. Like literally laying on the floor in the bedroom of the lodge, I started seeing things. In the same place where one might daydream, the entire first day of the conference played out in front of me. I could see myself speaking. I could see people being moved to tears as the team ministered to them. I saw myself saying things I had never taught before. I saw other team members and what they were going to do and say. The vision energized me and I started to feel better. And on the van ride to the conference, other team members shared what they were planning to speak on. And I instantly saw how everything fit together with what I had seen in my imagination. I felt all of a sudden like the conductor of an orchestra following a well-planned score, leading our team into the creation of a masterful moment of beauty. The funny thing is that just hours before, I had planned to take a back seat, hoping that someone else would take the reins and limit me to speaking as little as possible. Suddenly, I was at the center of a truly remarkable experience. And I have to say, that conference was some of the most powerful ministry I have ever been a part of. Every night, I collapsed back onto my bed in the lodge, totally useless. And every morning, I received a new vision for the day in my imagination. I'm sharing this experience with you as a picture of how powerful it can be when you see into the spirit realm and then speak the things you see into existence. It's like venturing into the limitless expanse of God's mind, pulling out from the treasures that are hidden there, and then seeing those treasures come to life right in front of you. Paul describes it like this. He says that the Spirit searches all things, even the depths of God. For who among people knows the thoughts of a person except the spirit of the person that is in him? He goes on that, so also the thoughts of God no one knows except the Spirit of God. Now, we have not received the spirit of the world, but the Spirit who is from God, so that we may know the things freely given to us by God. Paul goes on to say that we also speak those things, not in words taught by human wisdom, but in those taught by the Spirit, combining spiritual thoughts with spiritual words. How would your life be different if you began each day, each year, each new season of life the same way, ready to receive a download from the spiritual realm, actively seeking for His dreams and desires to flood your imagination, and then speaking those words over your life and over the lives of the people you care about? I hope you're beginning to see that power is released to bring about your desires when you combine seeing with speaking. As another example, the Apostle Paul outlines 2 requirements in Romans chapter 10 for a person to receive salvation from God. This salvation means to be safe from all judgment. So if you're saved, then sin and the consequences of sin, they no longer reign over your life. You're free to live your best life, healthy, whole, prosperous, victorious. Salvation, it's a big deal. Now, Christians know that salvation is a free gift that's given by God. It's not something that can be earned. So how does one claim their free gift? Well, Romans 10 tells us that you can do it when you, 1, believe in your heart that God raised Jesus from the dead, and then 2, confess it with your mouth. And then it says, and you will be saved. So the first step is a supernatural thing. When you hear the good news that Jesus died as the punishment for all the sins of men and that God raised him from the dead, achieving victory over sin and death for all mankind, that good news enters its way into your heart. Now, some people reject the good news. They're determined to try and earn salvation on their own. Others dismiss the good news as foolishness. But some receive the good news and they believe it. And the good news resonates with something already deep inside of them, a desire that God already planted in them, and they believe. I don't think this is something that can be worked up. It's confirmed to you in your heart, just like any other dream or desire. So Paul makes it clear that step 1 is to see, to believe it in your heart. But by now, it shouldn't come as any surprise to you that step 2 is to speak, to confess it with your mouth. Believe in your heart, confess with your mouth, and you will be saved. See, clearly forming the desire in your heart is the first step. Then power is released when you speak. When Jesus began his ministry on the earth, he preached a simple message. The kingdom of heaven is at hand. It literally means that heaven is here with you. Heaven is in fellowship with the earth right now. All the abundance of heaven, the fullness of the mind of God, everything God has been dreaming and planning for your life, every vision that he has placed on the inside of you, it's now accessible to you and to me. If you can see it and you can say it, it will be released right here on the earth. That's why Jesus taught us to pray, your kingdom come, your will be done on earth as it is in heaven. I hope this episode has been a benefit to you. If so, make sure to like and subscribe so you can get more videos to help you in your success journey. And have a great week, and I'll see you in the next episode. Well, I hope you enjoyed today's episode. You know, great businesses and great leaders are built using effective communication. For more, go to speakingschool.com, grab my Elite Business Success Toolkit for free just for trying out our Speaking School membership. That's speakingschool.com. See you next time.